Hey, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today at RT Podcast, or shall I say, Shalom? Shalom. Where are you calling from? Ephraim? Am I saying your name right?
Ephraim.
Thank you so much for joining me today. I really hope you're staying safe there. Are you in Jerusalem?
I'm in Jerusalem.
Um, are things relatively safe there?
There's no missiles in Jerusalem. There have been demonstrations or riots actually very close to where I live, maybe like a 10-15 minute walk from where I live. That's where the whole thing started. The Shechtrach neighborhood isn't very far away. I didn't see anything. Last Thursday, I drove by that neighborhood and I saw lots of peace, but other than that, I didn't see anything. And we've been okay.
Please, please, please stay safe. I actually spent some time there in Israel about a month, and I got to see quite a bit of the country, and actually even went over into Palestine and stayed at a mosque there for about a week. And I got to see that people are people. People are beautiful everywhere. But of course, there's bad apples in every group, and there's people who have an interest in trying to stir up things, But I think your average Joe Blow, your average Ahmed, or it's just I know that I saw it firsthand. They're just going about their lives, just want a better life for their kids. You're married, you got a family.
I'm married, yes.
Did I hear right? Did I hear right? You had 10 kids.
Yeah, I have 10 kids.
Why? I have one. That's like too many. 10. That's
in our
amazing.
community, it's like very it's common, acceptable. It's
Wow.
what's the word? What's the word? The word is like it's looked up. Let's look up to. It's considered admirable to have larger families.
Wow. My mom actually had 9 brothers and sisters, so she came from a family of 10. But I can't imagine. Deepest I don't know. It's probably a lot of joy, but I can't imagine taking care of that many. We have one daughter. She just turned 3. And really, I do want to tell you this. This whole podcast exists as a gift to my daughter, to bring people together and to talk compassionately, openly. And it's fine if we disagree on some stuff, but you got to understand. Actually, we just had a member of an atheist society that was on, these 2 members, and they said, let's try to see each other's perspectives and not just their opinions. So I think the more we can see things from other people's perspectives, the better off we'll be in this planet. So
Yeah.
I want to divide this into like half and half, because I have a lot of theological questions to ask you. And by the way, I saw your other podcast, the conversation you had with another gentleman. I found, as a Christian, I am Christian. I found it absolutely jaw-dropping, your insights. Do you think that a lot of Christians would do well to understand more about Judaism and the Christian roots?
I could imagine so. I'll be honest. Whatever I know about Christianity is just from the outside. I can imagine that since there are Jewish roots to Christianity, that probably it would be easier to understand the context. I did read the book of Romans, and I remember reading it. I wonder how somebody who doesn't know what it's like to be Orthodox Jew would have understood what he's trying to say. I was just curious how somebody who doesn't know what it means to live as a halachic Jew would have how they would have even understood what Paul is trying to say in the book of Romans. No, I read it as a college course or whatever. I had to read it, but I imagine that you could probably have more of the more someone would understand where they're coming from or where their theology has its roots, would probably help or enrich their own experience.
As I said, so I spent a month in Israel as a non-believer. And in fact, I was like right in the Via Dolorosa, and I saw the tomb of Christ, or they said Jesus Christ was buried or crucified. And I was like, whatever, man. I just turned around and I walked away, because I had no interest in Christianity. amazingly, I was far more interested in Islam. So as I said, I went into Palestine. I stayed at a mosque there. And I got to stay with these people, and they were so kind, so gentle, so accommodating to me, even though I was a foreigner. And they treated me with so much compassion. And I went into an Israeli house, and we I celebrated Shabbat with them. That was a unique experience, and it was also Hanukkah. So just one quick story. I want to tell you one quick story about my life. But whenever I was about maybe 10 years old, I asked my mom what was Hanukkah because they had mentioned it at school, and my mom said she goes, it's like a holiday. She's like, do you really want to know? And I'm like, yeah, I want to know. So she took me to a synagogue, and I remember the dancing, the food, the music sent my mind into sensory overload. And that was just such that one of those things that will never escape me out of my mind. But um, do you think that there are a lot of misconceptions about Jews, or what do you think might be the biggest misconception about you guys?
There's probably a lot of them. First of all, the Jews that were, as a people, we're a small people, but we're
Hmm.
very diverse. There's so many types of Jews. There's secular Jews, there's Orthodox Jews, there's Reform Jews. Within
Ashkenazi.
each type, it's Ashkenazim, Sephardim, Yemenites. Within Orthodox Jews, you have Hasidim and you have Yeshivish. You have so many different types of. So it's hard. Like there's misconceptions about
Hmm.
all different types. So like I know there's a lot of conspiracy theories going on around about us.
Yeah.
You hear, I look online, different conspiracy theories about what Zionist Jews are like or what Orthodox Jews are like. You see on different movies that come out about Orthodox Jews, which would probably be unrecognizable to any real Orthodox Jew.
Any
Like,
chance there is a movie, and I cannot remember it right now off the top of my head, but I do know it stars Jane Fonda, and she went in like undercover into Hasidic. I think it was a Hasidic Jew. Do you know what I'm talking about?
a Stranger Among Us or something.
Okay, okay, yeah, that one. What did you think about that movie?
That came out in the '90s, no?
About, yeah.
That was a long time ago. The '90s was a long time ago. Um,
Yeah, I miss the
I
90s. I miss the 80s.
my uncle was an extra in there. So I don't remember. I don't really remember it. It vaguely. I think they vaguely looked like Hasidim. Like there was something about it which like you could understand they were trying to portray Hasidim, but it didn't really. It was like okay. It was like you could tell they were trying to look like Hasidim. That's all.
Yeah, if you yeah, well, obviously, anytime Hollywood makes a movie, it's probably gonna be like 40% reality and 60% fiction, you know? That's just the
Yeah.
reality. They try to say you know, the most sensational thing, right? So we had a druid on the show, and we were talking about the movie called The Wicker Man, where they wind up burning this guy, and she's like, "Yeah, that's really," because she's actually also a film producer, and she's like, "Yeah, it's really inaccurate," but she's like, "If you're gonna tell a movie, that's the story you're gonna tell." You know, what I mean, it's as simple as that.
Yeah.
You want to tell the most. This is the same thing with the news. Like they won't they won't go and just show people who are just average Joe blows. You know what I mean? They want to show the
Yeah.
most sensationalized things, and I tell you this, I don't want to entertain any of the negativity as far as conspiracy theories or about Jews or anything like that. As a Christian, one of the most unbelievable, and you don't have to accept that Jesus Christ died or whatever, that's fine. We don't have to go down that route. But as a Christian, to follow Christians, if people have any kind of animus towards Jews over his death, it's like, do you not understand that it's like it was our sins that caused that? So I was just as culpable as any other Christian, as anyone who was back 2,000 years ago. Like it's literally, if you were to use that as a justification, that is just because you want to have hatred in your heart. Like, don't use the Bible. Don't bring the Bible into it. Just say, I don't like these people because I don't like these people. And actually, did you ever see a movie called The Believer? Ryan Gosling.
No.
He's a Jewish Nazi in the movie. If you can believe that. And I think it's based on a true story. But I think, yeah. So anyway, it shows his identity issue crisis, whatever that he's going through. But it's a very sad story. It's a matter of like hating himself. And man, if you haven't seen it, it's called The Believer. It's a really powerful. I mean, it is an extremely powerful movie. But I think at the end of the day, I don't want to butcher your name again, but at the end of the day, the more we're comfortable with ourselves, the more content we are inside of ourselves. Like, we won't look to project things to other people and to try to pull people down. I mean, on this podcast, we had an episode with an atheist man, and we're just talking about bullying. And I was very open about my bullying past and about how my insecurities and my self-hatred like fueled a lot of the bullying that I did. And now as a finding a religion, my thoughts on that have totally changed. So I'm compassionate now on bullies or people who are marginalized. And I think we got to strive to treat everyone with respect. And the more we can do that, I think the better off we're going to be on this planet. So can you tell me what exactly, are you an Orthodox or Hasidic? Or I always hear the word Hasidic and I always see the people, but what exactly would you describe as Hasidic?
Okay, so I'll try and make it simple. So
I'm
first you
sorry.
have Orthodox. Okay, first you have the first category. I'm gonna like break it down into
Okay, thank you so
step by
much.
step. Okay, so you have Orthodox Jews. Orthodox Jews believe that God gave the Torah, which
Okay.
we translate as the teaching. I understand there are Christians who translate it as the law.
Mhm.
The law is just a small part of that. The teaching was given by God, both in a written teaching, which ends up becoming the Bible and what the Christians call the Old Testament, and also the oral teaching, the oral Torah, which ends up being written down over the centuries as the Mishnah, the Talmud, and the entire rabbinical literature, and that this teaching is binding on all Jews forever. And basically, the system, that the halachic system, which is like the system of Jewish law and custom, is binding on anyone who is either born Jewish or who joins the Jewish people, and who accepts upon himself the Torah. Then he effectively joins the covenant. It's not for the entire world. The entire world it's up to them what they want to do. But it's like a religion for whoever is born into, whoever chooses to join. Now, that would be Orthodox Jews. Now, under Orthodox is another category that in Israel they call them Haredim. In English, they translate as ultra Orthodox, but we don't use that term. Many people in America would use the word frum or Heimish or other Yiddish words to describe it. We have like a culture which we believe is like a safeguard to make sure that today in the 21st century, and we should be able to keep the Torah, and the modern world, today's modern and postmodern world shouldn't get in the way, so to speak. So we have like a distinct culture, a distinct dress, often a distinct language. In America, especially, a lot of us speak. We try to teach our children Yiddish and things like that. Like a distinct type of culture, and we try to limit our exposure to the outside world. That's more or less what Haredim is. Now, in the category of Haredim, you have another two major categories. You have Yeshivish Haredim, who they believe that the most important part of Judaism is the study of Torah, and they raise their children and they dedicate their lives to the yeshiva, which means like a Jewish religious seminary,
Hmm.
where they try to dedicate their lives as much as possible to studying the Torah and the Talmud and to understanding it. And then you have the Hasidim, which are somewhat more like more of a mystical bent, in which for them it's like the lived experience of 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 Judaism, which is more important. Like Torah study is still the most important, but it's like the experience of Judaism more than the practice of it, which is more of a focus. It's like so therefore so and you have within Hasidim you usually have a leader of your specific Hasidic community would have a leader which is called a Rebbe, who is like he's like a spirit. In some ways, he's a spiritual guide. Depending on which group, he could be somewhere between a spiritual guide or just a community leader or someone you would go to for a blessing. And and so the so Hasidic. So I myself grew up Haredi yeshivish. And I chose in my teens to become Hasidish, which means I grew up in the yeshiva system. My parents raised me as a yeshivish. Most of my family is yeshivish. And I only went to yeshiva. I myself only went to yeshivish schools. That we again that the main thing isn't that like the experience as much as the practice of Judaism. And as a teenager, I myself chose to be more Hasidish, which is the more experience or to be more into studying. Let's say there's some Hasidic group which are more into studying theology, and by yeshivish they would study more like Jewish law and things like that,
Hmm.
But
So, so how exactly does one decide, as you said, to like what did you have an experience where you said, this is what I want to follow? Because my parents are ministers and I didn't have that experience the come to Jesus moment till I was 32 years old. And incidentally, it was 4 months after I left Israel. I had one thought whenever I was in Israel. I wanted to tell you this amazing story because I was in Beersheba and I was staying at this goat farm with the Jewish man I had hosted that year. And so, yeah, I went out and I stayed with him, helping milk the goats and everything. And one day, I said I'm gonna go out and out into the desert, and like literally no direction. I had like two oranges and a little bit of water, and I walked for hours and hours and hours out into nothing. And I didn't realize this at the moment, but it was kind of like a meditation because there was nothing around. Like everywhere you looked around, there was just sand. And so after multiple hours, I had this epiphany and I thought about this like, why does South Korea greet each other with Annyeonghaseyo? That means like, are you at peace? And Israel, you guys say shalom, which means peace. And Islam, they say salam alaikum, you know? And these three places are not known for being peaceful places. And yet they're all greeting each other with this peace greeting. And I started to think about that, about how much I was trying to promote peace in the world, but how much peace I lacked internally inside of me. There was like a war that was going on between good and bad that I was running overseas away from my life. And I had no idea that at that moment I was going to wind up making this huge spiritual circle journey on my life. But my story went all around the globe. I mean, I showed you some of the tattoos I have right here, the Jewish one, I have Buddhist, Islam, and I had to go down my own path that I went down. So, and I was running away from my parents' religion. So, how do you make that choice for yourself to where you want to dedicate your life to this, and it's not because of your parents?
it's hard to say because I tell you, even though I grew up yeshivish, my parents were very open to Chassidim. Unlike other, let's say, yeshivish parents, my family, my parents used to take me sometimes to see rebbes. Um, like Rebbes tend to on the Shabbat. We grew up speaking in more Yiddish. We called it Shabbos. So on Friday night, there would be a it's called a tish, which is like the Rebbe has like he has like a communal like meal, like probably like similar to the one that you saw, with singing and dancing, and like the whole community gets together and by the at the Rebbe's table. And we went once in a while Friday night to a tish, to a Rebbe, to the Rebbe's table. Even though we weren't Hasidim of that Rebbe, we weren't followers of those Rebbe, of or of any Rebbe. But it was like a thing to do. Like we would go to the Chabad Rebbe, who's a very famous Rebbe when I was a kid. He died in 1994. But we used to go to Crown Heights. I grew up in Borough Park in Brooklyn, and he was in Crown Heights in Brooklyn, and we would go to his events. And I grew up like appreciating that they're also there. We weren't like anti. We're just not them. So as I became a teenager, I started like reading a lot about them, and I liked them. I just like there's something about what they were about, their story. There's a lot of stories by them. Everything by them is much more like they try to bring out in a very experiential way. So like there's a lot of storytelling, there's a lot of singing, there's a lot. So I myself, even though I was in the yeshivish family and everyone around me was yeshivish, but since I read about them, and I did have a few Hasidic friends, so I felt drawn to it. I felt at home in that type of that way of thinking. So I started going to Hasidic synagogues, shuls, and I made more Hasidic friends, and I did my own thing, and it's like sort of like you could say a teenage rebellion, but like in a different sense, because like I was like at one point my parents were a little bit upset, and I remember they called up one of the rabbis in the yeshiva I was in, like like he's changing from the family. He said like you should be thankful that this is how he's rebelling. Like it's not what it's and the truth is that I didn't think of it as rebellion. I thought of it as just like being myself. I guess
Oh my
like
God.
looking back,
Oh,
yeah.
oh my God. Hold on. Give me a second. Oh, that was funny. Okay. Sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah. So like as a teenager, I looked at it just like discovering myself and figuring out who I am and what I like, and wasn't really about rebelling. But I guess it's like that for other teenagers also.
Well,
But that was
can you see this picture?
that's you.
Yeah. This is me in Israel. This is actually right in that Beersheba. I was out in the cave in the middle of nowhere. But my mom, right, she told me flat out, man, like, if you convert to Islam, like, we're not gonna have a relationship. And I was just like, whoa, I couldn't even believe that because I think naturally you want to rebel against your parents, but I was so upset by the faith that I felt had really failed me. And so I really wanted to rebel against it. So I got like just all the world religions tattooed on me. I mean, I was in Israel, I was smoking weed, drinking, I mean, I got this is an atheistic philosophy. I mean, self-reliance. And
Yeah.
I got some reincarnation tattoos on me. The guy the website I was telling you about, it's called Couchsurfing, where people from all over the world, you can host people. So I stayed with three of the people who had hosted me. Who I hosted before. They hosted me for a week, and then I stayed in with another guy in I think Tel Aviv, and he got me he did a bunch of tattoos on me. By the way, this I probably already know the answer to this, but have you ever been to the Dome of the Rock?
Officially, I'm not allowed to go.
Right. So okay. So I actually went there, but buddy,
Yeah.
because I had because the first time actually I was wearing a yarmulke, right? I was wearing a yarmulke when I was at Jerusalem, and I walked up, and the guy's like, they're like, you got to be Muslim to get in here, and I was like, yeah, I'm like I'm Muslim, and then he's like, and I had the yarmulke on, and he's like, oh, he goes, well, quote the Quran then. And I was like, he's like, get out of here, man. So I went around to the other side. I put my turban on and I walked up to the guy and I was like, La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah. And like, I just walked in past him. He's just like, you kind of like that. Like he was just like, did that just happen right now? Like you could see that something went off in his head. And so I went in there and I went into the Dome of the Rock, and it was funny because later on they wind up later on they came to tell, like they actually went in there. They realized what I had done, and but it was interesting. I mean, I went to the Wailing Wall. I don't know what time the Shabbat starts, but probably like 30 minutes before, you just saw a bunch of guys like rushing, they're walking, and you see them, they're like, they're checking their time, they're checking their time. They want to be there like exactly at a certain time, you know? It
Right.
just like, I mean, I was literally, I felt like I was getting bulldozed, man, because there was a bunch of, they got those crazy hats, you know? And I joked, I'm so I hope you don't find this offensive, but I was making like a video and I was like, I feel like I'm at a Johnny Cash convention. You know Johnny Cash,
No.
the country
Sorry.
singer. He wears all black. Where he's dead now, but he wears all black.
Yeah.
His autobiography was called "The Man in Black," and so it's like that. You see like a bunch of guys with suits coming in,
Yeah.
and you know the amazing thing. I will tell you this. What I found was so amazing, and we'll talk a little bit more about the rules that you have right now, because like these people were genuinely happy that Shabbat was going down. Like you could just see it in their, they were like dancing around. I got in there, you know what I mean? We're dancing around. I mean, it was so much fun, but I didn't realize how many restrictions were going to happen after that, because I took a bus out somewhere and then just right after like Shabbat started. So we're like, the bus driver's like, all right, you guys all just get out. And I was like, what the heck? So we went with a bunch of foreigners into Palestine. Actually, I actually went with reformed terrorists. We went to a reformed terrorist household with the parents of a man who was killed by terrorists, you know, and they were part of this organization called Combatants for Peace. And so we got to go in there, we got to listen to them, and we got to eat and drink coffee with them. It's a very, very, very empathetic situation, you know. But anyway, I was there in the house I was in that I was staying in. This is so funny. I mean, I don't want to call this funny, but it's a little bit ironic that when the Shabbat started, they put their fire on in their house, and they just put it on very low, right? And when they wanted to heat something up, they would just raise it up and then boil the water and turn all the way down. And I was just kind of like, you know, I'm not a believer at this point, but I was like, are you not like totally, I think, like neglecting like the spirit of this, right? The spirit that like you're not supposed to use the fire or whatever. Like they're just kind of they're trying to find a way to get around it, right? Do you find in those rules that you look for ways to get around having to do something? Let me just tell you one last story before I let you go. But we used to host a Jewish rabbi, and he used to come the night before Shabbat and stay the night so that he didn't have to take the a subway in. And he would bring all of his food like packed, and he even had beers. He would even bring beers. And we wanted to go out one time, you know, and so we're like, oh, you want to go out with us? And he's like, yeah, I'll go out, but you guys have to buy my beer because I can't spend money. And I was like, how convenient is that, right? So we took him out, but um, that's just kind of like a way to get around that, right? Would you say?
No and yes, because like the rule is I can't do business on Shabbat, but you can, right? You're not Jewish, so there are actually rules. There are rules about what you're allowed to ask a non-Jew to do for you, because like it's not right that he should like do everything for you. It's not really,
Uh-huh.
because like you say, it's like, what's the point? So it's like so they have like rules exactly like how you do it, like because listen, sometimes it comes up situations. Let's say your air conditioner fell, or your oven turned off, or something like that. So like, what are you gonna do? You can't, like, if you can't turn it on. So like, you'll go to your neighbor and say, it's like really hot in my house right now, because you can't ask him directly to do it for you, because that would be like real. So like you go to your neighbor and you say like, like it's
Oh
like
my
really
God.
hot by me right
Oh my God. Hold on. Give me a second. Bro. Oh my God. You are killing me over here. Whoa. Okay. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
now.
I don't want you to think I'm being at all being disrespectful here. I'm sorry. I have so much respect for you. That's just freaking hilarious, man. Sorry.
Yeah, I've done it. I went when I lived in New Jersey. We had African American neighbors. Like one time, like so I don't remember what went wrong on Shabbat, and like I just like went down. I like she was like by the fence or something. Said hi, how are you? What's going on? I don't know, like my fridge or something like that. I don't remember what it was, and she like totally she was cool with it because like it wasn't the first time someone like
Well,
mentioned something.
this is not. I'm not trying to bash your religion, which you believe in.
Yeah.
Obviously, I'm a Christian, so we have very different views on Shabbat, Sabbath. We call it the Sabbath, but like, what kind of God, if you think about this for a second, would think that it's more of a beef for you to like push a button than it would be to go and kind of do something in a dishonest way? Because I mean, if you just walked up to him and be like, "Hey, can you come plug in my thing?" Like that would be, that would be understandable. But it seems like, to me, I'm just trying to objectively look at this and say, like, how do you think that would be pleasing to God? Like, to just go simply pushing something, or kind of having to inconvenience someone else. Like, what are your thoughts on that?
The fact that it's like a rule for that I can't do it and you could. That's like one thing because Judaism believes that the rules are that the rules. It's not like this isn't like everyone in the world has to follow our rules. Like
Hmm.
this
Hmm.
is rules for us.
Hmm.
And or anyone who buys into it, anyone who accepts it by himself, then he would also have to keep the rules. But if you didn't accept the rules, then or you then that's your then there's nothing wrong with any of it. But we look at that one of the rules. What there's the same way there's a rule that I shouldn't be turning on a fire in Shabbos. There's also then we also look at there's also a rule that if someone who is allowed to have fire turn it on a fire, if he would turn it on for me, like because I asked him, so that's the same rule. Like there's a
Hmm.
rule I shouldn't turn on a fire. There's a rule that someone shouldn't do it directly for me when I ask. So I look at like it's not like we're going around the rule. It's like this was the rule. The rule was you should not light a fire. You shouldn't ask people to light a fire for you. But if they do it, like
You're
certain
not
things,
going to
like for
say no.
example, if you have cooked, yeah,
You're not
if
going
you
to say
have
no.
cooked for me, I'm not gonna say no. But if you let's say if you have cooked for me, I wouldn't take it because like you obviously cooked it for me. But let's say you cooked it for like 10 people, and one of them was me. So then I would say, okay, so you didn't just for me, you did like for 10 people and also for me, right?
Yeah.
So like,
So let me ask you about that. Like, are you supposed to prepare all your food in advance? Is that what you're supposed to do?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah. As I said, he came in with this, like, a cooler, I guess, and he had all of his stuff packed in there. And interesting. Any chance you ever saw a movie called Religulous? Bill Maher. Do you know Bill Maher? I think he's a Jew. Yeah, I think he's at least half Jew. He's a comedian.
yeah, the talk show or something.
Yeah, yeah. So
Yeah,
he made a movie called Religulous, and in this movie he goes down into Israel. This is so bad. I mean, there was like a technological institute, right? And the only thing that they do is make inventions that like try to get around these rules. So, for example, they created this phone. It's like one of those old telerotor phones, right? And what
yeah,
it does is all the numbers are constantly trying to dial themselves, right? And so, to get around this rule, they take this pin and they put it inside of the numbers. So that I guess it stops it from dialing itself. And so you just put it in successive orders like that. And I don't know, it somehow puts it together, but he kind of just in there is like, aren't you guys basically just trying to outsmart God at this point? Like, he had this. There was another one where they had this like wheelchair that was powered by it was powered by air, right? So the thing that we were getting around, they were saying that, oh, this isn't electrical, it's powered by air. So, but do you find that difficult? Like, do you find like you ever just want to do something like um on the Sabbath that you're like, well, hey, look, like what if I do, because Christians would do that all the time, like, hey, whatever they might justify, like, hey, I'll go have this beer, or maybe I might look at some porn or something every now and again, stuff like that. I mean, we'll justify things. Do you find yourself wanting to do that or doing it frequently, or are you legitimately able to do that? Because it seems like a burden too difficult, especially when I saw what this guy had to do on a weekly basis when he stayed with us. It was like a pain, like it was like a job to keep the Shabbat. That in itself seemed like a job. So it seems like it kind of is self-defeating the point, because you got to do all this work to make sure that you don't do something. What are your thoughts on that?
What a guy like me that grew up in this community and I'm living in the community, so there's like most of the rules are like so natural for me that
Mhm.
I have to like think about what the rules are,
Really?
because like it's like beyond, it's not even second nature, it's like first nature for me. So I don't even like notice that,
You don't
like
notice?
we just like know that we don't just like, this is just what you do, this is just
Mhm.
how things are. So let's say that we spend Friday preparing for Shabbos, so that's just like that's how I grew up. That
Hmm. Okay.
Friday my parents prepared, and today I do that. And when you live in a community where everyone around you basically is doing the same thing, then and you like there's no reason that there's nothing to do on Shabbos besides like be with the family and
Hmm.
eat the food which you prepared the day before. Like there's like what would you do? Like what would you want to do that you can't do?
Like
Like
everything's closed
all of you,
down?
everything's closed.
Hmm.
All any social events are taking place in a Shabbos way of doing things. Everyone you know and everyone around
Hmm.
you is keeping Shabbos also. So exactly, what would like what where would you want to go? What would you want to do? Like I can understand if I had to go to not outside my community for a Shabbos, then it probably would be a pain. Like if I would have to come just stay
I
out
mean,
for Shabbos, then yeah, you're right.
what if you wanted to check your email? Like you don't ever like, I wonder if that person ever got me back. Like, or I wonder who won The Bachelor. And The Bachelor?
I've heard it. Yeah,
That was a
I've heard
joke.
of it.
That was a joke. Okay,
Yeah.
I'm like, like you seen? Oh, I really would like to see this, but you don't ever have that. Like, that's amazing, because I can't say that that's the case for me. And in Christianity, if you know my past, I told you a bit about my past, and I still
Yeah.
want to do all the things that I used to like. That desire, I've prayed for God over and over and over to take away the desires that I had before, and now I am a father. Now I am a husband. It's a battle, it's a struggle for me, that to do the right thing. And so it doesn't come, if you say it's come second nature or whatever, it does not come second nature for me. It's like it's I have to intentionally and consciously, you know, Dodge Neon, the car.
Yeah.
I used to have a
Yeah.
Dodge Neon, it was my first car, but the suspension was off and it was constantly veering to the right. So I had to keep my hand always correcting for it, or I'd crash. And I think that's the
Yeah.
same way in my spiritual walk. Like I wish I could say it was a lot easier, and I pray for God to make it easier for me. But I have to be very intentional about doing the right thing. What do you
Uh,
think?
So I think what you're saying is actually, I would make a distinction between, um, I'm not the one who made this distinction. It's actually in the rabbinic literature. There's a Rabbi Charles Salanter who lived in the 1800s who actually wrote a very nice piece about this. He said that there are laws which become second nature. For example, eating kosher, keeping Shabbos. But there are laws which never truly become second nature. He says, for example, gossiping. You could know all the rules about not gossiping,
Hmm.
but
Hmm.
it's just something which is
Hmm.
very hard to give up.
Hmm.
You could know the rules about what's considered kosher food and not kosher food, and that's like come second nature that you want to eat not kosher. But the way you eat, like to eat like gluttony and things like that, that doesn't become second nature. So
Wow. Wow.
so
Wow.
actually, um, a lot of Orthodox Jews, we look at it that actually that's what life's all about. Life isn't about being perfect. Life is about that struggle is what life's all about, and the fact that that never actually goes away is a good thing, because that's that the fact that we're like exactly like you said. I saw it actually in a book, a rabbinic book from also from the 1800s. He talks about when you're driving a horse and you have to like hold the reins to keep it straight
Oh,
because it keeps
wow,
going
wow,
off.
wow,
So I used to tell
wow,
my friends, okay, so translate to our times, it means a car. So I'm very happy to say that
wow.
you also thought
Ugh,
about it the same way.
you just put chills on me right
Yeah.
now.
So
I
it's
can't tell you.
exactly what I was.
I can't tell you how many times I've done this podcast and I've interviewed people and I'm just blown away. They've been sent chills up my spine. So you just sent chills up my spine right now. So thank you for that. And actually, as a Christian, I learned so much, so much about Judaism from the last talk that you did, and I'll put a link to that in this description. I think it's so fascinating, and I want to transition about if you could give me any insight at all about what's going on right now. Um, Currently, I know it's been a dicey issue for some time, but seems relatively speaking, there was like we had gone through some areas of peace, and because I remember in the '90s there was all kinds of junk going on there all the time, you know. So, could you kind of like just give me any kind of insight?
I tell you the truth, I wish I understood what's going on, because I don't. I think even people here don't really understand. As you were
Hmm.
saying, up until like a few weeks ago, we probably had like from the most peaceful, um,
Right.
for the most peaceful times in decades. Like
Hmm.
I went
Hmm.
to school a few years ago. I had Arab classmates. I worked somewhere recently, and we had Arab coworkers I was very good with. And um, I, I don't know what to say. The a lot Everyone has their opinion about what's going on and what's happening, and it's like personally, like my feelings, like there was like I look at it like there was some type of landlord dispute in
Hmm.
Sheikh Jarrah, and I don't know why that had to become an international incident just because like
Right. Right.
you have a fight with your
Right.
landlord, or you're not, or you claim he's not your
Hmm.
landlord. So and like you don't you don't like what people go to court all the time for landlord disputes. Why does it have to become an international incident?
Hmm.
Why do
Hmm.
all the media have to blow it up as if it's like some I don't know, and like someone will tell me, well, yeah, well, the landlord was a racist. Okay, so landlord is a racist. Like, what do you want from me? There's racist landlords everywhere in the world.
Right.
So like,
Right.
why do you have to like?
Right.
There's plenty of racist landlords who are kicking out tenants in
Right.
probably every country in the world. So like, why does that have to become an international incident? And why do you have to like
Hmm.
make riots all across? Like, and
Right.
on the other hand, like, if they are making riots, I'm thinking to myself, like, maybe there's something going on which I'm not aware of, or the average Israeli isn't aware of,
Hmm.
which is hard to. I don't. It's like very confusing. Like I don't.
Yeah.
Probably someone on the other side could tell me why for them this is such a such a thing that's worth
Yeah.
making. I don't know. It's like very confusing for me.
You know, so I went into Palestine and Israel as I would have called myself very pro-Palestine back in the days. I, to be quite honest, still consider myself pro-Palestine and pro-Israel. Like I don't see it as an either or. Like I'm
Right.
pro-human beings. I'm pro-Homo
Right.
sapiens. It's like um, but let's just say this: going in there, I was not a believer, and I had I'm not going to call it anti-Semitic. Like that's not the word I would use. Because it was because Jewish people on a personal level, like I have nothing against them. You know, just same exact with my best friends. One of my best friends is a Muslim. You know, we're totally cool. And he has the same kind of things. He's like, I have Jewish friends. He's like our beef isn't against the Israeli people, but maybe some things that the government does. And it's like, I'm American. I don't agree with like probably 90% of what my government does, but um, I saw that there was a range of people in their views there. Like the guy who gave me all these tattoos. He literally told me he would go into Palestine sometimes and just go and chill out there because he's like he told me he was the world's worst Jew because like he didn't care about money at all, and he was just kind of this hippie guy, and he'd go stay down there, and they'd catch him sometimes and force him to leave. But he, um, you know, speaking of that point, I did want to talk about something before, and I just remembered. But people have this idea that like the Jews are just really rich and they make all this money and they own all this stuff. But like you go into Israel, just your average, there's just a lot of average Joe Blow people. They're not. It's like everyone's sitting around there with like a Swiss bank account with like millions of dollars in it. Just they're just
Oh, the
people. Like
opposite,
they're
yeah.
just people.
It's just not a very rich place, actually. Most guys here are probably. I'm not sure anyone here would be considered middle class in America.
Right,
It's not.
right,
Yeah, it's not a very rich place at all.
right. So
Yeah.
I don't know. You know what? I got to tell you this. I think this is just the biggest problem in the world. I genuinely believe because I'm a Christian, but I've got to interact with people all over the world, and I think if everyone just was able to take some time and go spend in a mosque or in a synagogue, or a Buddhist temple. I spent time in a Buddhist temple. If we're to do that, we just see that we're human beings. Like we have, if your mom dies, it's going to affect you the same way in Israel as it is going to be here in Korea. We may have some different views, but we still need food to survive. We still need air to breathe. We still need water to drink. So these things are like basic. They're the fact. I think, and I tell you this, I've met a lot of people. The number one thing I found that is so uniting among people is that everybody wants a better life for their children than they had growing up. That is so
Yeah.
universal to me. So, what do you have any ideas of what might be like a solution, like in the future going forward? Do you have anything, any guesses that you might be able to make?
I really don't know because it's such a like one thing I could say about this whole Israel Palestine thing is that it's like the media oversimplifies it like crazy,
Right,
like
right,
on both sides.
right, right.
It's like so not it's not how the media portrays it, but it's like
Hmm,
so
hmm.
it's like so it's like you have two narratives going on at the same time, and like if one of them is true, then like what's going on? Like how could the other one be true? And if the other one is true, then how could the first one be true? And like the narratives mean so much to the parties involved. Let's say, like personally, for example, I'm not Zionist, right? Haredim, for the most part, are non-Zionists. We're just Jews, and we happen to live in Israel. Uh, but we're not like full Israelis, like the secular Israelis or the or the Mizrahi, the Dati Leumi, the religious Zionists. But still, there's like, the Israeli narrative like is what we hear all the time, and then I hear on the media the other narrative, and like how do you even? I don't even understand how it's possible to reconcile the two. Like like you just like agree to disagree.
Right,
The more
right,
like
right.
um and it's not like and like the media makes it as if like one side makes so much sense, or like I see people they make cartoons and
Oh
as if like
yeah.
caricatures,
Hmm, hmm.
and like the caricature, yeah, okay, I understand your point, but like you so missed the point. Like whoever these people who write caricatures,
Right.
they so missed what's going on, and it's like so not what and like it's
Yeah.
like right.
Mhm.
It's like agree to this, like there's
Right,
so much
right,
emotions, and like
right.
agree to disagree and say, you know what I mean, like in a marriage, like agree to like
Right.
everyone's different, and I don't know, like
Yeah, you know what? I would just say this, going there and seeing it firsthand, I saw that it was a lot more complex, one, and I saw a little bit about the history because I never knew the the United Kingdom involvement that wind up causing a lot of the problem. I think a lot of people don't, that it was actually like a territory of the
The
British
British
Empire.
mandate.
Yeah,
The British
so
mandate. Yeah.
yeah, so when he realized that, and he realized that the British Empire had carved up a lot of places in the Middle East that was not exactly like advantageous for the people there. You know, you put like this, you would understand why the Iraq War happened, if you were to understand a little bit more about what the British Empire did to that area. You know, those kind of things,
Right.
things like Rwanda in Africa. You would understand that all that genocide and all that stuff like had its roots back in Belgium, in Europe. And so that's
Right.
what colonization does. It creates a lot of problems like that. So anyway, it's just not as black and white. It's more complicated than you think it is, you know? Like people, I used to think I knew a lot about it in high school. I mean, in college, and I would make some political statements at school. One, which got me in a lot of trouble with like the Anti-Defamation League, if you know them,
ADL. Yeah.
ADL. I had warned, and I'm just going to tell you this. This is it was totally blown out of proportion, but some some settlements that were being like bulldozed, and I was protesting that action, and I wore like a Jewish flag like crossed out, and I was being accused of anti-Semitism, and I was making the point, I disagree with this act, you know, with this act. It has nothing to do, absolutely nothing to do with Jewish people, you know, other than the fact it happens to be Jewish people who are doing that, you know, like or the government. You know, the same thing about Islamic governments. There's Islamic governments. If they would have done the same thing, and I would have crossed out the you know, the flag has says nothing about Muslims. Like I love Muslims to death. I mean, I've interacted with Muslims in probably in a dozen countries, and I've hosted at this point almost 10 Jews into my household. So making a statement against a government, it says nothing about what you think about the people, you know. And as I said, my best friend, he's a Muslim, and he tells me the same kind of thing. Like, if you have a problem against the government, it does not reflect what you think about your average Joe Blow. Because I mean, listen to this one, bro. When I came to South Korea, there were a bunch of Canadians or Australians or Brits who were looking at me like I personally drew up the war plans to go into Iraq. Like they wanted to debate me like I was responsible for the Iraq war, you know? Like I didn't have anything to do
Right.
with that. That has
Right.
nothing to do with me. I wasn't for Trump. I wasn't for Bush. Like
Bush.
I wasn't even for those on a personal level. So how are you going to take that out on me?
Right.
Right. So is there any last thoughts you have? I know it's about an hour right now. So do you have any last thoughts you'd want people to know about you? Actually, I have one quick question. Um, how do you guys like atone for sins if you don't do the animal sacrifices anymore? Like, I never really understood that.
Oh, it's very simple. And the simple probably just say, God, I sinned. I'm not going to do it again. And then the next time you're tested, you don't do it again.
Wow. So you only get one chance. Wow.
No,
I
you could do it
I
again. If it doesn't work, you do it again.
I was
And then
gonna
if the
say
next time,
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
if it doesn't work, then the next time you say, oh, I'm sorry, guys, I slipped up again.
Hmm.
Next, I'm sorry, I'm going to try again. And also, we pray 3 times a day. So one of the lines of prayer is forgive us, Father,
Hmm.
forgive us, Father, because we sinned, and forgive us because we sinned, and we're not going to do it again. So you basically say it 3 times a day, and
Wow.
so that's I say that's the main thing. And once a year we have a day called Yom Kippur, which is a day that we fast from sundown to sundown, from sundown
Hmm.
to a little bit past sundown the next day. It's sometime in the fall,
Hmm.
and then that's like the big day of atonement,
Hmm.
and that's like anything like we say, they say sometimes like we say like God forgives you, but He says, listen, we wait till Yom Kippur to like really cleanse you. But
Hmm.
after, let's say on Yom Kippur, we wear
Hmm.
all white,
Hmm.
like in order to show that we're clean. Now we're clean, like we're okay. But really, anyone at any time, the rabbis say that prayer replaced sacrifice,
Hmm.
animal
Hmm.
sacrifice,
Okay,
and
I get it.
you just you say in your own words, say God, I did such and such. You specifically, you're supposed to say what you specifically did. I did, I don't know what, and I'm sorry for doing it, and
Hmm.
I hope not to do it again. And then you hopefully don't do it again. And
And sorry, just one last. What is so? I assume your average Jewish person. I know there's a Messianic Jews, but there's your average Joe Blow does not accept Jesus Christ as the Messiah, correct?
right.
So what would the Messiah need to do in order? What would Jesus Christ needed to have done in order to fulfill the Messiah? I'm just genuine curiosity. I want to know that.
He would have had to bring all the Jews back to God, and reestablish the Jewish kingdom, and rebuild the temple.
Hmm. Interesting. So that temple, you would never, ever, ever understand how gigantic that temple is until you just see like what the foundation would be you literally can't even see it like from ground level. I had to go up to a higher vantage point to see that because it's so gigantic. You know what I mean? You can't even.
Yeah.
It's hard to even I can't even adequately say like how gigantic it is. It's like you literally feel like an ant if you're on there, right? Like you see the people walking around, they're
We
like
can't even
ants.
go. As a Jew, we're not, as a Jew living in Israel, we're not allowed to go there. As you know, we aren't allowed to go anywhere near there.
Well, we'll have to look forward to better days when we can set aside these differences and work together. And this is
Yeah.
I really, 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 really want to thank you for being on this podcast. I would say I probably have at least another 2 hours of questions to ask you. So we're gonna have to break this up in a 2 and a 3 part series. If you
Okay,
wouldn't mind in the future.
that's great. I
I
enjoyed it too. I had a
Yeah,
great
we
time.
won't do it on the Shabbat, obviously, because that would require you using your phone.
Right. Yeah.
So we'll do it another time. I really appreciate you taking the time to talk and to being open about this. I think Christians need to be talking to Jews. Jews need to be talking to Muslims. Muslims need to be talking to, we just need to be talking and recognizing at
Right.
the end of the day, we're not that different. And we may have some different beliefs in God, but if we truly believe in the God that we say that we're believing, one of the ways we can show that we believe in him is by treating his other children with respect. And so that's what this podcast is all about: respect, humility, empathy. The empathy, try to see things from the other person's side, trying to show a little bit of humility, recognizing our faults, recognizing we don't have all the answers, that we're sinful people. And I think the more we can do that, the more we can humanize each other. And world peace is probably not going to be possible in our generation, but maybe for our children's it might be. So thank you so
Good
much
stuff.
and shalom.
Have a good Shabbos.
All right. Thank you. Bye bye.